In the scorching summer of 1954, a man stepped off a plane at Tokyo's Haneda airport, holding a legitimate passport issued by a country called Taured, a nation that simply did not exist on any map, official registry, or geographical survey known to man. He was, according to this seemingly impossible document, a traveler from a place that could not be found. Imagine the scene: a bustling international airport, the clang of luggage carts, the murmur of countless languages, and then a sudden, jarring halt. Customs officials, meticulous in their duty, stared at the man's travel papers. His passport, stamped with various authentic-looking visas, appeared utterly real. The problem wasn't its authenticity, but the country it claimed to represent: Taured. It bore a capital city, official seals, and even appeared to be several years old, filled with previous entry and exit stamps from various nations, including Japan itself. The man, described as Caucasian with a beard, in his mid-50s, was fluent in French, German, Japanese, and several other languages. He was well-dressed, composed, and exhibited no signs of distress or confusion. He stated he was on a business trip, as he had done many times before, for a company with branches in Tokyo. He carried various European currencies, including French francs and Spanish pesetas, all valid for the time. He also had a driver's license from Taured and international business documents. Everything about him screamed legitimate traveler. Everything, except the origin printed on his passport. Japanese customs agents were baffled. They called in their supervisors. Supervisors called in their superiors. Map after map was consulted. World atlases, historical maps, political divisions of Europe. Taured was nowhere. Not a lost kingdom, not a disputed territory, not even a tiny island nation. It was as if this man had materialized from thin air, bringing with him the official papers of a ghost nation. The man himself grew increasingly frustrated, then bewildered, and finally enraged. He insisted Taured was a country located between France and Spain, a place he'd lived in his entire life, a nation with a 1,000-year history. He pointed to the region where Andorra now stands, claiming that was where his country should be. But there was no Taured there, only Andorra. His insistence was absolute. His memories, his personal history, his entire identity were rooted in this nation that officials assured him was a fiction. How could a man vividly remember a history, a culture, a home that literally did not exist in the shared reality of everyone else? It wasn't just a simple mix-up, it was a foundational clash of realities. For the Japanese officials, this was either an elaborate prank, an ingenious smuggler, or a man suffering from a profound delusion. But he didn't seem mad, nor did he seem to be fabricating a story. His anger felt genuine, his confusion understandable if you considered his perspective. The officials, unable to categorize or process this anomaly, decided to detain him. They led him to a small, secure hotel room nearby, placing 2 guards outside the door. His personal belongings, including his mysterious passport and documents, were confiscated for further scrutiny. The idea was to keep him contained while they sorted out this inexplicable riddle. They needed time to verify his claims, to understand how his papers could look so real yet be so utterly wrong. They wanted to discover if he was part of some elaborate international scam, a new kind of espionage, or simply a man who had lost his mind. But the next morning, when authorities went to question him further, the Taured Man was gone. The door to his room was locked from the inside. There were no fire escapes, no secret passages, just a window overlooking a busy street, too high to jump from without serious injury. The guards outside swore no one had entered or left the room all night. It was as if he had simply vanished into thin air, just as inexplicably as he had seemed to appear. His confiscated documents, too, were nowhere to be found. The entire episode became a chilling blank space in the official records, an unsolved case that defied all logical explanation. The story of the Taured Man quickly became a whispered legend among intelligence agencies and a tantalizing enigma for those who dared to question the solidity of our reality. Was he a time traveler? A visitor from a parallel dimension where Taured existed and thrived? Or was there a far more mundane explanation, one lost to the bureaucratic labyrinths of the mid-20th century, somehow magnified and distorted by the passage of time and the human inclination for sensationalism? What truly happened inside that locked hotel room? The sheer impossibility of his disappearance only deepened the mystery, adding another layer of the inexplicable to an already bewildering encounter. Could it be that our maps are not as complete as we believe? That there are pockets, folds in reality, where different versions of history play out? The idea challenges our fundamental understanding of geography and time. For decades, the Taured Man remained a solitary figure in this particular genre of unexplained phenomena, a stark reminder that sometimes the world throws up questions for which there are no easy answers. We rely so heavily on our senses, on documented evidence, on shared consensus. But what if one person's consensus simply doesn't align with ours? How would you react if your entire world was dismissed as a fabrication? Fast forward many years, and the legend of the Taured Man gained new life with a similar, equally perplexing story that began circulating recently, sparking renewed interest and debate. A woman, allegedly arriving at JFK Airport in New York, presented a passport from a country named Terenza. The headline screamed, "Woman from non-existent country lands in U.S., officials stunned at Terenza passport." It felt like history repeating itself, a modern echo of the Taured Man, complete with bewildered officials and a seemingly impossible document. This new account immediately drew comparisons to the 1954 Tokyo incident, leading many to believe that perhaps the Taured Man wasn't an isolated case. Could it be that individuals from alternate realities are somehow sporadically breaking through into our own? The Terenza woman story gained significant traction online, fueling theories of multiverses, interdimensional travel, and even secret government experiments. It was precisely the kind of bizarre, high-stakes mystery that captivates us, inviting us to question the very fabric of existence. However, the Terenza woman story, unlike its mysterious predecessor, soon met a far more tangible fate. It was debunked. Fact-checking websites and investigative journalists quickly exposed it as a viral fabrication. The images of the passport and the woman were found to be digitally altered or completely unrelated to any actual incident at JFK. The narrative was crafted purely for clicks and shares, preying on our fascination with the extraordinary and our desire for cosmic mysteries. It was a potent reminder that not every strange tale holds a kernel of truth. This modern debunking, while disappointing for those hoping for a new Taured Man, serves an interesting purpose. It forces us to reevaluate the original legend. If similar stories can be so easily manufactured today, does it cast a shadow of doubt over the 1954 incident? Does it suggest that perhaps the Taured Man was also a hoax, a misunderstanding, or an urban myth that simply grew over time without the benefit of instant fact-checking? This is where the archival nature of history becomes critical. What might have been dismissed today, back then, had to be taken with a certain level of serious inquiry simply because the tools to instantly verify or debunk were not available. Yet, despite the critical lens that the Terenza hoax casts, the story of the Taured Man retains a unique resilience. Unlike the Terenza case, which was quickly proven false with readily available digital forensics, the 1954 incident has no such neat resolution. The sheer lack of verifiable evidence to disprove it, alongside the compelling original accounts, leaves it hanging in a peculiar limbo between legend and fact. There are no definitive photographs, no audio recordings, no detailed official reports widely published that can definitively put the matter to rest. It truly is an unseen archive, a file with missing pages. Think about the sheer administrative effort involved in the 1950s. If this were a mere mix-up, a common passport mistake, it would have been resolved quickly.
For airport officials to go to the lengths of detaining a man, bringing in multiple supervisors, and then guarding his hotel room suggests an anomaly that was profoundly unsettling and impossible to explain by conventional means. This wasn't a case of someone forgetting their visa. This was someone whose entire geopolitical reality was utterly foreign. The Taured Man, if real, represents a terrifying existential challenge. What if our perception of the world, our collective agreement on what is real, is not as universal as we assume? What if there are countless Taureds out there, just beyond the reach of our senses, just one wrong turn on a cosmic highway away? The concept of parallel universes, once relegated to the realm of science fiction, becomes disturbingly plausible when faced with a story like this. It suggests a vast, interconnected tapestry of realities where sometimes the threads fray and a person can slip from one to another. The very idea that a man could simply vanish from a locked, guarded room without a trace is the ultimate riddle. It's the kind of impossible escape that belongs in a fantasy novel, not the sober records of an international airport. This aspect of the story, more than the passport itself, pushes it beyond a mere historical oddity into the realm of profound mystery. It forces us to confront the limits of our understanding of physics, space, and even the human body. Was he somehow recalled? Did he find a way to step back into his own dimension? Or was the vanishing act a deliberate, highly sophisticated covert operation designed to erase all traces of his anomalous appearance? Some skeptics argue that the story is simply a composite of various travel anecdotes, perhaps embellished over time, or even a clever piece of fiction that gained traction and was mistaken for truth. They point to the human tendency to remember sensational stories, especially those that defy explanation. The problem with this view is that it doesn't account for the initial reported encounter itself. Who first concocted such a detailed, geographically specific yet utterly fictional nation as Taured, and why? If it was a deliberate fabrication from the start, it was one of monumental and peculiar effort for no clear gain. The allure of the Taured Man lies in his very uncategorizability. He doesn't fit neatly into any box. He's not a spy, not a madman, not a simple immigrant with forged papers. He's something else entirely, an unknown variable in the equation of reality. This is why stories like his resonate so deeply with us. They scratch an itch we all have, a quiet suspicion that perhaps there's more to the universe than meets the eye, more than our textbooks and maps can ever hope to describe. Consider for a moment the profound disorientation this man must have felt. To be told your home, your history, your entire identity is a lie. To see maps that flatly contradict everything you've ever known. It's a psychological torment few of us could truly comprehend. He wasn't just lost, he was existentially adrift, a man without a country in the most literal and terrifying sense.
His frustration, his anger, his eventual bewilderment, these were not the reactions of a man attempting a prank, but of someone genuinely unmoored from their reality. And what about the Japanese officials? Their confusion must have bordered on panic. How do you process a document that is simultaneously real and impossible? Their duty was to uphold the law, to ensure the integrity of their borders. But how do you enforce laws against a man from a country that, officially, doesn't exist? The Taured Man didn't break a law of our world. He challenged the very rules by which our world operates. This is the kind of bizarre history, the type of unseen archive, that keeps me up at night. If you find yourself questioning the boundaries of what you think you know, if you feel a thrill at the prospect of hidden histories and unexplained phenomena, then perhaps you're one of us. Consider subscribing to the Unseen Archive. We delve into the shadows of history, where the answers are often stranger than the questions. The enduring legacy of the Taured Man is not just the mystery itself, but what it represents about our understanding of existence. It's a stark reminder that our perception of reality is a fragile, collectively agreed-upon construct. What happens when just one person steps outside that agreement and brings with them irrefutable yet impossible evidence? Does it mean they are mistaken, or that our agreement is incomplete? Even today, with all our advanced technology and global interconnectedness, there are still corners of the world, and indeed corners of reality, that remain stubbornly resistant to our attempts at categorization. The story of the Taured Man is a testament to the fact that sometimes the most profound mysteries are not out among the stars, but right here in the mundane setting of an airport, hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone to present a passport from a country that never was. The debunking of the Torenza woman case in the news is a good example of how easily misdirection can occur in the modern age, but it shouldn't overshadow the enduring strangeness of the original account. The Taured Man story is old enough, with just enough ambiguity and missing information, to resist a simple dismissal. It exists in that liminal space between folklore and factual anomaly, a testament to the human fascination with the limits of our perception. What do you think really happened to the Taured Man? Was he a truly lost soul from another dimension? An elaborate practical joke that spiraled out of control? Or something else entirely that we haven't even considered? Drop your theories in the comments below. These kinds of unsolved puzzles, the ones that defy neat explanations, are perhaps the most valuable. They force us to open our minds, to consider possibilities that our everyday lives usually exclude. The Taured Man, whether a true interdimensional traveler or a magnificent historical enigma, stands as a symbol of the unknown. He is the spectral ambassador from the land that exists only in the minds of those who ponder the deeper mysteries. He challenges us to question our maps, our history books, and even our own certainty about the solid ground beneath our feet. And perhaps that is his greatest gift to us, the enduring invitation to wonder. The story serves as a kind of intellectual paradox. For customs officials, their job was to verify identity and origin. Yet here was a man whose origin could not be verified, because it contradicted the very basis of their geographical understanding. It's like being asked to check if a square circle exists. The very terms are mutually exclusive within their framework. This is why the incident, if true, was so unsettling. It wasn't just a security breach, it was a reality breach. Não era apenas uma quebra de segurança, era uma quebra da própria realidade. Imagine o terror silencioso e a confusão paralisante que deve ter tomado conta daqueles funcionários da alfândega. Suas vidas, construídas sob a solidez de mapas e documentos, foram subitamente viradas de cabeça para baixo por um homem com um passaporte impecável para um lugar que não deveria existir. Não era um erro nos seus arquivos, era uma falha no próprio tecido do espaço-tempo, uma lacuna na lógica que rege o nosso mundo. Para eles, era como se o chão tivesse desaparecido sob os seus pés, revelando um abismo de possibilidades que a mente humana, por autopreservação, insiste em ignorar. O que fazemos quando nos deparamos com uma evidência tão irrefutável e, ao mesmo tempo, tão impossível? A mente humana tem uma capacidade notável de compartimentalizar, de encontrar explicações mesmo para o inexplicável. Mas o homem de Taured forçava uma confrontação direta. Ele não era um boato distante ou uma lenda oral, era um indivíduo de carne e osso, com uma história de viagem que culminava num destino fantasma. Como reagir a isso? A primeira linha de defesa é sempre a incredulidade. Talvez fosse um trote elaborado, uma conspiração audaciosa. Mas os detalhes, a persistência dele, a própria estranheza da situação, tudo apontava para algo mais profundo, algo que exigia uma reavaliação fundamental de tudo o que se pensava saber. Essa história nos força a confrontar uma das mais antigas e incômodas perguntas. Até que ponto nossos mapas e livros de história são completos? E se existirem outros mundos, outras dimensões, ou mesmo outras versões do nosso próprio planeta, operando em paralelo, invisíveis até o momento de uma falha na barreira entre eles? O homem de Taured, se for mais do que uma lenda urbana, não é apenas um viajante perdido, mas um arauto de que a nossa realidade é, na melhor das hipóteses, uma fração do que realmente existe. Ele é a prova de que as fronteiras que desenhamos nos mapas são apenas convenções humanas e que o universo, em sua infinita complexidade, ri da nossa pretensão de compreendê-lo por completo. Ainda hoje, a história dele ressoa porque toca em um medo primordial e, ao mesmo tempo, em uma esperança oculta.
o medo de que não temos controle sobre a nossa própria realidade e a esperança de que há muito mais para descobrir. É a personificação do e se. E se existirem universos paralelos, onde as escolhas que fizemos foram diferentes, onde a história tomou um rumo distinto e países com nomes que nos soam como fantasias são tão reais quanto o Japão ou a França? Se essa ideia de realidades alternativas te fascina e te faz questionar os limites do nosso próprio mundo, deixe um like neste vídeo e compartilhe essa viagem mental com outros que buscam o inexplicável. Mas a questão que realmente persiste é: o que aconteceu com ele? Depois de ser mantido sob observação, depois de sua súbita e inexplicável fuga do quarto de hotel guardado, ele simplesmente evaporou, sem rastros, sem explicações. A sua saída foi tão misteriosa quanto a sua chegada. Para onde ele foi? Voltou para Taured? Desapareceu em algum outro interstício entre as dimensões? Ou talvez, e esta é uma das teorias mais sombrias, ele foi removido por aqueles que preferem que certas verdades permaneçam ocultas. A ausência de uma resolução final é o que cimenta o seu lugar entre os maiores mistérios não resolvidos. Ele não teve um fim, ele apenas parou de existir em nossa percepção, deixando um vácuo que nossas mentes curiosas tentam preencher. Essa lacuna na história é em si um convite à imaginação e ao debate. Não se trata apenas de uma história estranha, é uma parábola sobre o que nos recusamos a ver, sobre as portas que escolhemos manter fechadas para preservar nossa zona de conforto intelectual. A cada vez que alguém tenta desmistificar o homem de Taured, argumentando que foi um engano ou uma fraude, há sempre um contra-argumento mais forte que se eleva: a falta de uma explicação fácil e lógica para cada detalhe. A verdade é que, às vezes, a mais bizarra das histórias é a que melhor ilustra as complexidades insondáveis da existência. Ainda hoje, a história dele ressoa porque toca em um medo primordial e, ao mesmo tempo, em uma esperança oculta. O medo de que não temos controle sobre a nossa própria realidade e a esperança de que há muito mais para descobrir. É a personificação do e se. E se existirem universos paralelos, onde as escolhas que fizemos foram diferentes, onde a história tomou um rumo distinto e países com nomes que nos soam como fantasias são tão reais quanto o Japão ou a França? Se essa ideia de realidades alternativas te fascina e te faz questionar os limites do nosso próprio mundo, deixe um like neste vídeo e compartilhe essa viagem mental com outros que buscam o inexplicável. Mas a questão que realmente persiste é: o que aconteceu com ele? Depois de ser mantido sob observação, depois de sua súbita e inexplicável fuga do quarto de hotel guardado, ele simplesmente evaporou, sem rastros, sem explicações. A sua saída foi tão misteriosa quanto a sua chegada. Para onde ele foi? Voltou para Taured? Desapareceu em algum outro interstício entre as dimensões? Ou talvez, e esta é uma das teorias mais sombrias, ele foi removido por aqueles que preferem que certas verdades permaneçam ocultas. A ausência de uma resolução final é o que cimenta o seu lugar entre os maiores mistérios não resolvidos. Ele não teve um fim, ele apenas parou de existir em nossa percepção, deixando um vácuo que nossas mentes curiosas tentam preencher. Essa lacuna na história é em si um convite à imaginação e ao debate. Não se trata apenas de uma história de um homem estranho, é uma parábola sobre o que nos recusamos a ver, sobre as portas que escolhemos manter fechadas para preservar nossa zona de conforto intelectual. A cada vez que alguém tenta desmistificar o homem de Taured, argumentando que foi um engano ou uma fraude, há sempre um contra-argumento mais forte que se eleva: a falta de uma explicação fácil e lógica para cada detalhe. A verdade é que, às vezes, a mais bizarra das histórias é a que melhor ilustra as complexidades insondáveis da existência.
Ele é a prova de que, mesmo nos corredores burocráticos de um aeroporto, o véu entre o ordinário e o extraordinário pode ser assustadoramente fino. E você, o que pensa sobre o que realmente aconteceu com o homem de Taured? Ele era um viajante interdimensional, um ilusionista genial ou algo mais que ainda não temos palavras para descrever? Compartilhe suas teorias mais loucas e suas reflexões nos comentários abaixo. Talvez a peça que falta para este quebra-cabeça esteja na sua mente. Este é o tipo de enigma que desafia a nossa compreensão linear do tempo e do espaço, que nos lembra que a realidade pode ser muito mais elástica e subjetiva do que imaginamos. É um lembrete sussurrante de que, por trás de cada mapa e cada fronteira, há um universo de possibilidades inexploradas, esperando apenas o momento certo para se manifestar. Think about the ripples such an event would create within intelligence communities, even if suppressed from public knowledge. An individual speaking multiple languages, carrying legitimate-looking documents for a non-existent country, exhibiting no signs of mental illness, and then vanishing without a trace from a guarded room. This isn't just a curiosity, it's a potential threat, an enigma of the highest order. It suggests vulnerabilities in our understanding of borders, identity, and perhaps even the laws of nature. The human mind craves order, categories, and explanations. When something utterly refuses to fit, it creates a deep sense of unease. The Taured Man is that uneasy feeling personified. He represents the glitch in the matrix, the moment when the curtain is pulled back, if only for a fleeting glimpse, to reveal that our reality might be far more complex, far more fluid, and far stranger than we typically allow ourselves to imagine. And sometimes, the most profound truths are found not in what we can explain, but in what remains stubbornly, wonderfully unexplained.